Hello and welcome to this video on averages from bar charts. So the main skill we're going to be looking at today is calculating averages from a bar chart. So we're going to be looking at the mean, the median and the mode from this. Okay, so we're just going to look at a couple of examples. So here is your first example. So this bar chart on the right shows you how many computer games 20 students played last month. So I've got three questions here. I want to know the modal number of games played, the mean number of games played, and then the median number of games played. And we're going to go through each one individually. Okay, let's start with the modal then. So we've got 20 students here. So what we need to look at is the highest bar here. So we need to look at the highest number of students. And if we have a look, this one is the highest bar. This is the bar that has the highest frequency. But we need to make sure we write down one game as our modal number of games, all right? Because this is the one that would appear most. If you were to write all these numbers out in a list, it would look something like this. So you'd have ones, and then you'd have 5 twos, and so on. And you would see that one would be the number that appears the most. Okay, so it's the same as doing it from a list, but you need to look at the highest bar to be able to identify the mode instead of looking at the numbers within a big long list. Okay, now the mean is a little bit trickier. So usually when you do the mean with a list of numbers, you add up your numbers and then you divide by however many numbers you have. Now the problem here is you don't have your numbers written out in a big in a list essentially. Now you could sit there and write out a big long list if you want to. So you could go like, well, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then you could do all the twos and so on. Problem is, you're going to get a list of 20 numbers here, and you're going to then have to add 20 numbers together, and it's very easy to make a mistake when you're adding so many different values together. So what you do instead is you look at the bars and you do some multiplications. So if we look at that first bar, we've got 7 students that are playing one game. So if we do 1 times 7, that will give you 7, and that's the same as doing 1, add 1, add 1, add 1, add 1, add 1, add 1. So it's a much more efficient way of doing it. Then we've got to do the second bar. So we've got 5 students that play 2 games. So we can do 2 times 5 to get 10. Then we've got 4 students who are playing 3 games. So we can do the 3 times 4 there. Then we've got 1 student who's just playing 4 games. And then we've got at the end there 3 students who play 5 games. So you can see there, we've got now the totals for each bar. So if you were to add up the individual values that are being shown by each bar, those are the 5 values that you would have. You've then got to add all of those together. So if you add together the multiplications you've got for each bar, that will give you 48. And remember, the question told you at the start, there were 20 people, 20 students. So if we take that 48 and divide it by 20, just realised the list is in the way there, you'll end up with 2.4 games for that one. Okay, so it's a little bit trickier than doing it from a list. There's a little bit more involved, but it's about working out the total for each bar and adding all that together and then dividing by however many values you have. If it doesn't tell you in the question as well, you can add together the frequencies for each bar. So you've got 7 there, 5 there, 4 there, 1 there, and 3 there. That all adds together to make 20. So if it didn't tell you how many students there were, you would need to do that as well. Okay, let's have a look at the median then. So it says, what is the median number of games played? Now, median, remember, is always the middle value. Now, we don't have the numbers out in a list here, so rather than writing them all in a list, there's a much more faster way of doing that. You can take the total number of values, which is 20, because there are 20 students, half it, and that will give you 10. So what that tells you is that the 10th value must be the median. So you could just write out the first 10 values if you want, So I've written out basically all the 1s and the 2s, and you can see that when you get to here, 2 is the 10th value. So 2 would therefore be the median. You can just do it from just adding up the bars as well. If you think the first 7 numbers are going to be 1, then the next 5 are 2. So that's going to take you to the 12th value. So that should also tell you that 2 would be the median. Okay, you can sit and write a big list if you want to. It just takes a bit of time to do that. Okay, let's do one more example then. So on this this graph here, we've got 40 students this time, and they were asked how many times they went to the gym in 1 week, and we've got the information presented in that chart. So I was like you to do the same again. I'd like you to do the mode, mean, and the median for this chart. Okay, so the modal number of visits then, once again, that's nice. That's the easiest one to do. It's the highest bar. We can see that 1 has the highest bar, so 1 visit is therefore going to be the modal number of visits. Now the mean is the one that's a bit more labor intensive, takes a little bit of work. So if we go from each bar individually again, we've got 0 times 7 for that, the first bar, which makes 0. We've got 1 times 10 for the number, the 1 for 1 visit, which will give you 10. And then you've got 8 people who had 2 visits, so that'll give you 16. You've got 7 people who had 3 visits, so that gives you 21. You've got 5 people who have 4 visits, which will give you 20. And then 3 people who've been 5 times, so that will give you 15. So once you've got the totals for each bar, add them up. So we've got 82 when you add all of that together. And we already knew that there were 40 students, so we've just got to divide that by 40, and that will give you 2.05 as your answer for this one. Okay. Okay, and finally then, here is your median. So we remember we had 40 values here. So if we do 40 divided by 2, that will give you the 20th value. So if we look at the bars now, the 20th value must be 2, because if we add together the frequencies, we've got 7 there, 10 there, and 8 there. Well, 7 add 10 is only 17, so it can't be 0 or 1. But when you add that 8 on, you get to 25. So the 20th value in your list, if you were to write it all out in a list, would be the number 2. So it's got to be in this one just here. Okay, so thanks very much for listening. Please hit subscribe. I will do another video at some point on averages from frequency tables as well, so keep a lookout for that, because that ties in a little bit with this. It's very sort of similar concept. Okay, so thanks very much for listening. Bye bye.